Okay, so we might as well get going now. I'll just introduce myself briefly. I'm Andy Stevenson, one of the co-founders of Reverse Rett and now head of fundraising. I have a daughter, Beth, and a stepdaughter, Amber, with Rett syndrome, who are 30 and 25. So I've been around for a long time, and I've been fundraising now since 1999, doing at least two, sometimes three fundraisers a year. So it started for FSID, which was a cot death charity, because my nephew died of cot death. And then obviously when Beth was diagnosed with Rett syndrome, I started looking around for ways to support her and people with Rett syndrome. And to be honest, there wasn't a lot around then. So it was mainly a case of fundraising for her school. Um, so that's me. I've got Ben Lashbrooke with me, who is dad to Lottie, and has been a really, really prolific supporter of Reverse Rett for probably over a decade now. Um, and he's joined us on a couple of the team events the last couple of years. So rather than just listen to me for the whole time, I thought it would be a good idea to have someone a little bit different to give a different perspective on how they fundraise and make the most of what they're doing. So Ben's got a little PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to hand you over to Ben, and we'll come back for some questions and answers later on.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andy. Like Andy said, I'm Ben Lashbrooke, and I've got a daughter, Lottie, who's 14, nearly 15, with Rett syndrome. We've known about the diagnosis for probably about a decade, but it took quite a while for me to get involved with fundraising. And Andy, as I've said to you before, you were a real Mr. Motivator in terms of encouraging me to get going. So thanks a lot for inviting me to give my thoughts. Like you said, I've got a short PowerPoint presentation, really just to help me collate my thoughts. So I'll share my screen and we'll get that up, and then we will go through it. So, so fundraising workshop, practical strategies for success. This photo on the left was taken, I think that was last year, the Lake District Ultra Challenge that we did, Andy. You did it in a heck of a lot of a quicker time than me, but it was great fun. And someone seems to have put Mr. Motivator's body under your head. So it makes for a fantastic picture, but that just kind of summarizes for me who you are, Mr. Andy Motivator, who got me into this in the first place.
Thank you.
So we'll talk through a bit about getting involved, why you should get involved, and I'm going to talk through my retail model of fundraising. And these are literally my thoughts. They're not Reverse Rett's thoughts. It's just my take on how we can go about raising some money. And so all become clear, I hope, when we go get to that part. So this is my brain, and these are some of the thoughts that I had when Andy encouraged me to get involved with fundraising. The last time I did any fundraising before the first Lake District Ultra was probably when I was about 15. And I suspect if there are people on the call who haven't got involved with fundraising, they might be having exactly the same thoughts. First of all, will people actually sponsor me? Bizarrely, considering the money that I managed to raise, I actually thought I'd struggled to, scrape together just a few £100 of sponsorship. Then, will I raise enough money to avoid looking stupid? That probably says more about me than anything else. But I didn't want to, do a huge challenge and not raise a reasonable amount of money. Having said that, I think it's really important to say that any money raised is helpful to the charity. So I think that was more about me than sort of the reality in terms of fundraising goes for Reverse Rett. I was also really concerned about having enough time to train. You know, we've all got busy lives, busy with work, busy with children, and Lottie, our daughter. So that was definitely weighing on my mind before I did it. Um, and I was also worried about whether I was physically able to do a challenge like an ultra. I'd sort of seen people go off and do these amazing challenges, and I wasn't actually convinced that I was going to be able to do it. So other people might be having similar thoughts. And then when I did a second one in 2025, I was worried about whether people would actually sponsor me again. And like I said, this was the last time I did any fundraising. It was when I was a teenager, and I did a 24-hour potholing trip underground. I mean, great fun in itself. So there had been about 20 years, I reckon, since I'd last done any fundraising. So that's why I was having some of these doubts. But the rest is history, as they say. And this short clip was from the Ultra in 2025. So let me just hit play on that one.
Hello, Barnaby. What are we doing? We're ready. On the Ultra. Yes! 50k, 100k. Fueled by sugar. We've got some good scenery up ahead. We're feeling good. We've raised loads of money for Reverse Rett. We're doing a 100k Ultra in the Lake District. Oh yeah, 50 next door, yeah. That's fine, that's 50's good. 100 next year. Wink. Right, we'll see you later.
So look, we probably look like a couple of middle-aged twits, but that's my brother and I, and we had an absolutely brilliant time. We're closer now than we've been since we were children. I would think we're fitter now than we've ever been before. So when I see that video clip, although we probably look like twits to everyone else, for me that just brings warmth to me. These are absolutely brilliant things to get involved with. I don't think you'll look back if you get involved. So my message is really simple. Instead of why get involved, it's just get involved, because it's brilliant fun for you. You'll get fit, you'll bond with people, and you'll raise money. So I'd really encourage everyone to get involved. So this is my short sorry, let me just go back. This is my short idea for how to view fundraising, and it's certainly helped me for the past 2 years when I've been creating Just Giving page and doing social media stuff. And it's really my retail model of fundraising. So I'll tell you what I mean by that. First of all, you've got to choose your product. So in other words, decide on your fundraiser. And there are masses and masses of things out there that you can do. The Ultras in the Lake District are part of this Action Challenge series. This coming year, I'm doing a 50k Ultra in the Peak District. And we're taking our 16-year-old son on that. And you can see from the map, they're all over the country, so they are really accessible. And there are different lengths of challenges. You can do 10k, 25k, 50k, right up to 100k. There are also overseas challenges, and I think there was a Saharan challenge a few years ago. These look absolutely brilliant to me, and they're certainly on my hit list of things to do in the future. But there are also things more local to home. Every year there's a 10k challenge in London, and my wife Debbie did this for Reverse Rett about 8 years ago. 10k I think is a really accessible distance. So if you're not particularly fit, then 10k is a really good distance to go for. She raised with her team a really decent amount of money, and it takes in all the amazing London landmarks. So that's definitely an option. Like I said, I did a 24-hour caving trip when I was young, so you can really go off piste and do something a bit different. And then just having a look on Just Giving, I found this chap who put together a gallery of the world's worst record covers, and he displayed it, and he charged an entry fee and then also asked for sponsorship money. And this actually raised about £1,500 for, I think it was a stroke association or something like that. So, really off piste. And then judging by some of the chat on our WhatsApp group, There are a few people who like to go to pubs, so you could always do a pub to pub walk. And this team went to 7 pubs on a kind of 30-mile route and raised loads of money. So all sorts of ideas. But as far as my model goes, that's kind of the product that you then want to sell. So then we come on to the selling part. And my idea is that your Just Giving page is essentially your online retail website. And what you're trying to do is to get people to click the Give Now button. So I guess in retail terms, you're trying to convert navigations to the page into actual donations, people going through and clicking that icon. So like I said, my idea is that your Just Giving page is a bit like your retail website. So you want to make this as attractive and interactive and interesting as possible so that you get conversions from simply visiting the page into hitting that big button that says Give Now. Now, I reckon, and this is purely my thoughts, there are 3 main reasons why people might want to donate. And first, I think there is sheer admiration for the challenge. There are all sorts of challenges that we can do, but there are some challenges that really stand out. And, Ross McKinney rowing across the Atlantic was one for me, where I just thought, wow, that's phenomenal. And that deserves to have a few pounds thrown at it. Josh Ricketts was an absolute legend in 2025, and he did every single event in the Action Challenge Ultra Series. So he walked literally hundreds, if not thousands of miles for Reverse Rett during 2025. So I think some of his sponsorship was this kind of sheer admiration for challenge. Rather you than me, you're doing something crazy, so it's well worth me sponsoring you. Then I think there are people who are simply aligned with the cause. So when they see someone doing a fundraiser for something like cancer research, I think there are people who naturally align themselves with that charity, and they will just want to sponsor them, whatever that person is doing. So even if the person is doing a really small challenge, I think there are people who naturally want to support a particular charity. That I'm sure is true for our families and friends. We're all growing up. Our daughters are growing up, and our children are growing up. People have got Rett syndrome, so our families and friends close to us probably naturally want to back Reverse Rett. But I think smaller charities have to work a bit harder sometimes to get sponsorship from people, a bit further afield, perhaps more distant friends or work colleagues, that kind of thing. So there are some tricks that you can do on your Just Giving page, and these are a couple of examples I found. I think these 2 are really quite powerful, where if you go to the Just Giving page, it says, I'm in for Smudger. This was a rugby player who died of motor neuron disease. And this one, I'm in for Will. So to my mind, these really capture the person sponsoring into feeling part of that, kind of team effort and helping. So those, I think, are really good examples. Whereas if you look on Just Giving, sometimes you see people who've left their page quite empty. And this was one I happened to pick on. You get this default wording on Reverse Rett. So this person, Julie, hasn't edited her wording, and this is just the standard wording, Julie's fundraiser for Dementia UK. So what I've suggested is try to avoid doing that. You've chosen your product, which is your fundraising event. Just Giving is your online retail website, so you want to make it as attractive as you possibly can to get people to donate. So like I'm saying, with these other 2 examples, I think it really encourages people to hit that donate button. With this one, I think it looks a bit bare and is probably less likely to get people to make that donation. So then the third reason why I think some people donate is an emotional connection. a tug at the heartstrings. And I just wanted to share something that was quite personal to me. This is actually my brain, and I'm a doctor, and if there are any doctors watching this, you might realize that there's a white area at the base of the brain, and you can really see it on that second image. That's the cerebellum. It's the part of the brain that's responsible for balance. And this was me back in 2009. I had a stroke when I was only 31. And it was a really, really traumatic event. I didn't mention it when I did the 2024 Ultra Challenge. And I think a lot of people sponsored me just for the top item there, the sheer admiration of challenge. I think a lot of my friends thought, gosh, that's, Ben's never done anything sponsored. So he's doing 100 kilometers, he can have a few quid. When I did it again in 2025, I thought I wanted to put a slightly different perspective on it. So I perhaps went for this third item, more of an emotional connection to try to generate some sponsorship. So what I did was actually to feature that on my Just Giving page. And I wrote a bit about my experience of having had that stroke and the fact that I had to essentially teach myself to walk again, and then had managed to do the Ultra in 2024. I felt quite vulnerable doing it, if I'm being completely honest, because it's not something I like to dwell on. But I had a lot of positive support and comments from it. So it was one of the reasons why I wanted to capture this on the slide. I think if you feel able to, this emotional connection, trying to get people to sponsor by using a different perspective can be really, really powerful. I think for those parents who've got children who are newly diagnosed with Rett syndrome, then you'll have a natural emotional connection anyway. But I think for us parents who've had children where they were diagnosed, perhaps 10, 15, 20 years ago, it can be quite helpful to put a slightly different perspective on it. Now, sometimes you see pages that seem to hit all three of these: sheer admiration for challenge, being naturally aligned with the cause, and also that emotional connection. And this was a friend of mine, and his niece tragically died off Poole Harbour in a diving accident. And my friend Nick did the Brighton Marathon, but also ran the Blackdown Beast and the London Marathon. So he did 3 events. So, from my perspective, I was just full of admiration for the challenge. The RNLI, I think, is an amazing cause anyway. And if you look at the very bottom of the write-up, Nick, my friend, said that he wanted to do this to help prevent tragedy affecting another family. And there was also that, sort of tragic part of it as well. So I think there are some Just Giving pages that hit all 3 of these, and they're really effective at fundraising. And you can see at the top, he raised over £10,000. So a really successful fundraising campaign. So just quickly on the Just Giving side of things, it's important to use all the features on the page. Because, like I said, it's the sort of retail website, if you like, and there is a button on there that allows you to put a photo gallery. So I'm a big believer in putting loads of photos on. I think happy photos are really nice, and you can actually feature different photos as the sort of headline photo on your Ultra page. So, sorry, on your Just Giving page. So you can play around with things like that. You can also put updates on the page. And every now and again, if I went out for a big training run, or I did a half marathon, I would put an update on the Just Giving page. And I'm not sure about this, there may be other people who know better, but I think this is really important for getting Google to crawl the Just Giving page and then boosting it higher up in the search rankings. In 2024, I mentioned that I was doing an Ultra to a workplace colleague, and that was it. It was literally a 10-second snippet of me saying I had some charity event planned. And that person went away, Googled my name and Just Giving, found my page, and then over the next 2 months, they raised about £1,000 of sponsorship by whipping up support in that workplace. And that purely came from Google. So I think putting plenty of content on the page and updating it and adding photos can be really powerful. There's also the share button, and that's where you get links to add to places like Facebook and WhatsApp and LinkedIn, and we'll come back to that in a second. So we've chosen our product, which is our fundraising, or our fundraiser. We've set up our online shop, our Just Giving page, our retail website, to try to get people to donate. And now we have to advertise. And just like any product, you have got to get the word out there. Branding, I think, is really, really important. And we'll come back to this in a second with some photos. Reverse Rett will kindly offer training t-shirts, and these are absolutely brilliant for getting the word out. Personally, I use them every time I go out training. And they're really good for starting conversations. They've now got a QR code on the arm, so it's even possible for people to zap the QR code and go through to the charity website. Word of mouth is also really powerful. As I said, we're doing a 50K Ultra this coming year, and I was out doing a walk with Lottie quite recently, and we got chatting to a lady, and she's already pledged sponsorship for this year just because we bumped into her, and I told her a bit about why I was out on a long walk and trying to get fit. You can actually generate your own QR code, and if you zap the QR code at the top of the screen, that will take you to an Adobe QR code generator. So what you can even do is generate a QR code for your own Just Giving page. And that means that you might want to laminate it. You could put it on your rucksack. You could put it on a card, for example. So if you're out and about, people can even zap this and go straight through to your page so they can sponsor you directly. You can also generate lots of support from work, and some companies will have kind of a one all HR button or a one all company button, you know, so you could even spam the whole company and tell them about what you're doing. And there are also companies out there with charity fundraising channels, and some companies specifically have a kind of a charity donation system. Certainly the company I work for, you can apply to a community fund and they'll sponsor you up to £1,000. So all of these channels are really worth exploring. Social media is hugely powerful, and perhaps Andy might talk us through some of his thoughts on this. I think my message is that you have to repeat posts time and time again. So if I just bring these up, this was for my 2025 Ultra. And, you know, I really went to town and I put loads on Facebook. I think you have to hit it over and over and over again. If you think about it, companies will do exactly the same with products. So if you're trying to sell something, if you're trying to get people to go to your Just Giving page, then it's well worth doing the same. I think Andy and I are both aware of people who will say they're going to sponsor, but they sometimes forget, especially if you start trying to drum up sponsorship early. So there's a really good reason to keep hitting people with fundraising requests. People have good intentions. They might see it, you know, in April, think they're going to sponsor you, and it might only be in June when they see another, you know, sort of message or email or something on Facebook that they actually hit that sponsorship money. So really important to keep that message going. Branding, like I said, is really important. These are the Reverse Rett t-shirts. This was a half marathon I did at Burley House in Lincolnshire. It wasn't sponsored, but I just thought I'd use the opportunity to wear the t-shirt and get some really cheesy photos. And I then was able to use those on my Just Giving page. So every opportunity, especially when the sun's out and, you know, I start trading this year for the summer event, I'll get the t-shirt on and spread the word. Now, Facebook instinctively is what I would turn to, and I think that's because I'm of that generation, but I'm really aware that some of the younger generation especially don't use Facebook much, but they do an awful lot of scrolling on Instagram and TikTok, watching reels especially. LinkedIn is a professional platform. I have put some posts on there. I've definitely had some sponsorship from LinkedIn, so it's worth thinking about. And I also think it helps promote the page on Google. So LinkedIn might be worth thinking about. But this is the sort of typical video reel that I started doing in last year, 2025. I didn't do so many of these the year before. But like I said, I think they're really powerful on Instagram and TikTok. And I think they're more what some of the younger folk listen to.
Hi, everyone. We're back out training, ready for the 100-kilometre ultra in the Lake District in June. We're about 24 or 5 kilometres into a 41k route that I'm doing today. It is pretty tough, but all the incredible support and donations are really helping me to keep going. They're a massive boost. So thank you. Incredible weather, incredible scenery. Thanks, everybody.
So it's short and sweet. And I don't feel particularly comfortable seeing it, and I never feel particularly comfortable making them. But I have a feeling they really work. And especially on Instagram, there are some really prolific people on Instagram with hundreds, thousands of followers. And if one of those pick up one of these reels and share it, then it can really spread the word quite quickly. Partly why it's important to have branding, and you could see the T-shirt there. So I've done that. So that's it. My summary is get involved. It's absolutely brilliant, and you'll keep Mr. Andy Motivator happy. The way I think about it is that we're trying to sell a product. We choose our products in the first instance by choosing our challenge. We've then got to create a Just Giving page that really helps to engage people and sell the product. And whatever you do, advertise, hit social media, get the word of mouth out, and use branding to really sell your message and generate interest in the event. All right, thank you. So, Andy, I've got some questions for you because I'd really like to hear from you about your thoughts. You've been doing this a heck of a lot longer than I've got. So would you be happy to sort of convert to like a mini podcast style and for me to ask you some questions?
Yeah, that's fine. I would say though that you were being very modest there by saying that you only just started your challenges when you've been doing so much for the 8 years before that, coming to the London Gala and,
Oh,
what you and your family have made the big give year after year. All of you donate on it. So, it might have been your first challenge in 2024, but it's definitely not the first time you've been heavily involved in raising money.
no.
Uh, so yeah, that was brilliant, by the way. I really enjoyed that. And you put some things across there that, sometimes I haven't even, because when you have been doing it a long time, you do get stuck in your ways sometimes, and you've got to try and think
Yeah,
slightly differently.
yeah. It's definitely helped me create a sort of a structure for the Just Giving page, and then for all the sort of advertising. When I first did it, it felt a bit unstructured, but when I did it last year, I think because I had that pattern in my mind, it certainly felt a bit easier because I knew what I was trying to hit, and
I
easy.
remember because we were doing the same event, and I remember your posts and how structured everything was. It was really quite impressive. In fact, it made me think you'd been watching the last two fundraising workshops that I did.
Well, I watched one of them.
You stayed awake.
Yeah, of course.
Brilliant. My job is done.
So look, let's pick your brain. So first question, tell us a bit about your fundraising career, Andy, will you? And what were the highlights? What have been the highlights in that?
Well, as I said earlier, it started a long time ago. Um, the highlights, overall is obviously the money that's been raised. the end of every single challenge is always a highlight. One of the fun things I did a couple of years right at the start when Reverse Rett first started was got some friends who were players at Warrington Wolves who I'd got to know through golf. And we did a nude calendar for a couple of years, and that was good fun. And it really spread the word because I think we sold 5,000 the first year and 10,000 the second year, which was a lot of calendars and raised a hell of a lot of money. But it got the whole Warrington Wolves supporter community involved, and their support has continued to this day. So they've always been big supporters. So that was something that sticks in my mind. Another one was a cycle ride that we attempted. There was about 8 of us. No, there was 4 of us who tried to do the whole thing. No, actually, there was only 3 of us tried to do the whole thing. None of us did the whole thing in the end. It was 500 miles non-stop on a bike, organised by Neil Fowler, who had a daughter called Kira, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago. I remember that one, and it was the first time that I'd never finished the challenge. And rather than feeling really disappointed, I felt actually quite euphoric because it was the first time that I'd realized I'd given absolutely everything, and I had to be held stopped by one of the other riders said, you need to stop. And I was like, no, this was like 3 in the morning. But I was seeing 2 roads. I had double vision at the time. And I'd had such bad stomach ache that I couldn't eat and I wasn't drinking. And some of the support crew had noticed this. They'd noticed that I was doing a 50-mile loop and then coming back and I hadn't drunk any liquid. So it was a recipe for disaster. So that sticks in my mind for a different reason. But I felt quite happy afterwards. I didn't feel embarrassed. Whereas, a lot of people worry about not completing the challenge. And it's really not something to worry about. Everyone's supportive of what you're doing and the reasons that you're doing it. And whether you finish or not, I think is secondary. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, those are 2 really interesting points. Not finishing, in a way, just shows how much of a challenge that you've taken on, doesn't it? So it's almost the opposite to what you might think.
Yeah, it definitely was the opposite because I'd always felt up till then that got to finish, got to do it for Beth, got to do it for Amber, and it's not really about that. I'm no use to them if I'm not here.
Yeah.
So it was the right thing to do, although I didn't feel it at the time, and tried to carry on until I was physically removed from my bike.
I think, and then the other interesting point was that it's the difference between doing an individual kind of endurance challenge versus something like the calendar, where you're drumming up sort of local support and getting people to be more aware about it at a local level. I think that's also really powerful. It's another great idea, isn't it? People could think
it was really good because it got press coverage locally. And just the sheer number of people that knew about Rett syndrome because of those calendars. And, I was doing some really dodgy things like meeting people in car parks and handing over 50 calendars so they could go and sell them to the friends. It was really grassroots stuff. But it was a really good way to do it.
Yeah. Thank you. Right, next question. Why should people get involved, do you think, Andy?
There's the obvious reasons. Reverse Rett have got a big job to do. Science is expensive. The work that we do with the registry and everything else needs to be funded. We need to keep going. So that's the one reason. But the main reason for me is personally, and I think it is for some other people that I know who are parents, it keeps you relatively sane. When Beth was younger, especially, I could have gone mad with all the things that were happening, and getting out and training and thinking I was doing some good by raising money, even though at the time the causes that I was raising money for wasn't really having any impact on research because it was pre-reverse Rett. But when that experiment happened in Edinburgh, where Rett syndrome was reversed, it sort of gave me the impetus to go even further. And obviously, then when Reverse Rett formed in 2010, it was just a case of keeping going. And because at that time, and the reason we formed was we just wanted to fund scientists in labs. That was it. We'd raise money, we'd give it to science. We're a lot in a different position now, as everyone knows. So, but it's still important that we still exist to make sure that these treatments and whatever comes through gets through and people and made available to everybody. So I'm not gonna stop till either some catastrophic event happens to me or Rett syndrome is gone.
I've found that one of the most powerful things about getting involved, that feeling I've gone from just sitting and waiting and hoping to doing something, proactively to help bring about change. And it's, from a mental perspective, it's been incredibly powerful to get involved and feel like I'm making some difference, however big, however small. It doesn't matter. It's doing something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's being part of the overall picture.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about a little bit more about that later on, because I've got a few notes that I've made. There are some things about that's very, very important, especially when you're talking about people being afraid to fundraise again and again and again. That isn't something that phases me, but not everyone feels like that. But everything that I do, and it's all about Amber and Beth, and now everybody else's children, because I've become involved with the charity. And that's the starting point. That's the baseline. You just go back to that anytime you feel uncomfortable, whether it's during the challenge or whether it's when asking people, just go back to that reason why. It's always back to the reason why, and you're doing it for them. Some people think that they've accepted the children for who they are and everything else, and I have accepted that, believe it or not. But have they accepted it? And my guess with my two is no, they haven't accepted it. They would like to have a better quality of life. I know that. So I think it's rather selfish for me to think, well, I'm all right, Beth as she is and Amber's as she is. But how do they feel? Because we don't know.
Yeah, that's incredibly powerful, isn't it? Something I'd be really interesting to hear about is how fundraising has changed since you started. If you think about the use of the internet and social media, can you talk us through how it's changed since you started?
It's just another world, really. It's not even another world. It's another galaxy. When I started, it was just paper forms. You wandered around with a paper form in your back pocket. In my case, I was a golf pro and I had a shop. So I had a sponsor form on the desk all the time, 12 months of the year. Always, once I'd done one challenge, I'd put the next one on and a new sheet would go on. And during those, what was it? 13 years before I did that for 13 years, I never had a negative comment. So when you're talking about, oh, will people get fed up of me? Will people sponsor me again? The answer is yes, especially when they know why you're doing it. So that was how I raised money. And then when I left golf and started to work for Reverse Rett, I'm suddenly in an office with my soon-to-be wife, and there was nobody to ask. There was no point having a paper form because I didn't see anyone. So it was totally different. By that time, I'd started on social media. But you've got to be creative, because there's nothing more powerful than walking up to someone and going, I'm doing this for my daughter. Will you sponsor me? Here's a form and a pen. No one's ever turned that down, ever. Maybe it's because I look scary, I don't know, but no one has ever turned it down. But when you're on the internet and you're on social media, how do you keep it fresh and how do you make people, donate? And the answer, there's no easy answer. And I think the one thing you've got to do, and you know this, Ben, because you've raised big amounts of money, 8, 9, 10,000 from your challenges. The next one you do, you might only raise 1,000. Doesn't matter.
Mm.
It really doesn't matter. And you've got to have that mindset that the next challenge, you might only raise half, you might only raise a quarter. It's all about the collective.
Mm.
Reverse Rett has been successful and has raised over 15 million pounds now. And it's because of people doing whatever they can. And if whatever they can means they raise £20, or whatever they can means raising £20,000 through work or whatever, that is how we've got where we are. So people shouldn't put a value on just on monetary terms. They should look at the bigger picture and just know that they're part of something big and something that inspires.
Yeah, that's a brilliant message, isn't it? Get involved, and it doesn't matter what the end amount is. It's money for the charity, but it's also being involved and having all the benefits that brings. I think that's a really powerful message. Thank you. Yeah. So what are you planning this year, Andy? And do you think you'll do anything differently this year for fundraising compared to what you've done in the past?
Do you mean in how I promote it?
Yeah, about how you try to generate.
Little things I've learned today from you. So yeah, I'm going to do something different. Um, I'm always looking for different ways. I'll try anything. This year we've got a huge team in the Manchester Marathon. A few people are on this call now who are doing it with me. I think there's 50 of us. A couple have pulled out with injuries. So there's going to be between 45 and 50 anyway, which is a huge, massive. We've not had anywhere near that before for a long time. And with it being in Manchester where we're based as well, there's going to be a lot of supporters. So it's going to be a great day. So everyone who's in that team, the 50 of them, doesn't matter whether you get somebody who's got really well connected and has 10 grand on their page, or someone who isn't very well connected and only has £200 on the page. It's all about that total at the end.
Yeah.
And that's the thing to remember. So I've got that coming up. Then I've got a couple of 100k ultras, one in North Yorkshire in June and one on the Gower Peninsula in Wales.
You say that so casually, Andy.
I don't mean to. I don't take any of them lightly. You've got to get some training in.
Mm.
There are different ways of training that doesn't take up as much time as you'd think, believe it or not. But the biggest thing with any of these challenges is in between the ears. It's amazing what your body can achieve. There's a quote: "What your mind can believe, your body can achieve." And that's really the key to all these things, is believing you're going to do it. The first time we did 100k, we did the Dorset one, Jurassic Coast, and there was about 23 of us, most parents, most dads. And we were all like very, very nervous about how we were going to fare. Everyone got round one way or another, some faster than others, but everyone got round and everyone enjoyed it. Most of those people have carried on doing challenges like yourself because of that camaraderie from them. And there's also a few events like fundraising nights that I've got lined up for people. I'm not organising them, but I'm attending them. So that's always another good way to raise some money and to get people together and spread the word and have a good time.
Yeah, brilliant. I think I completely agree with you about the psychological component of the ultras. I mean, I was really nervous before I did it first time around in 2024, but it's a mind game to a large extent, and you can do it at whatever speed, can't you? It can be slow as you want, and it's just about plodding and chatting and having fun on the way around, and it's incredibly powerful what having companionship on as you go around can do. It just makes the hours fly by, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't feel like you're out there as long as
Yeah,
you are out there.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd go crazy if I didn't have something to aim for. Um,
So finally, give us your 3 top tips for raising money, if you can, or one top tip, as many as you can. Are there any sort of things that that you can help me with when I'm thinking about my Peak District challenge for this year?
I think the biggest selling point for you this year is Finn doing it with you.
Yeah.
He's 16. It's the first time he's done a challenge for his sister. That's where the donations are going to come from.
Yeah, for me, when I was doing that slide about selling, and I had the sort of admiration for challenge as the top one, um, and then at the bottom it was the tug at the heartstrings. For me, that definitely aligns with that point. It's something a bit different. It's Finn doing it for his sister, so
Yeah.
I completely agree. I'll really try and use that this year.
And how many 16-year-olds do things like that?
Yeah,
And I've always been chomping at the bit in the background, waiting to get old enough to do something with you. So,
yeah,
it's been a few years in the making, hasn't it, with him?
definitely.
He's
Yeah,
been he's been dying to do something. And
yeah,
we've got Finley, who's 11, who's been talking about trying to do an action challenge this year. He's done a few climbs and
amazing.
stuff in the past.
Yeah,
I think one of the positives about Rett syndrome is how it affects the siblings in a positive way. It makes them really kind, nice people, caring people with empathy. And, in a world where there isn't a lot of empathy at the moment, I think that's quite a beautiful thing
yeah.
to see that. So I think Finn is your golden ticket this year. Everyone's seen you and know what you can do. They know how powerful you are and what an athlete you are. So, but what I was going to say, going back to the original question,
Mm,
the 3 things. Number 1, and you've touched on all of this anyway, tell your story. People donate to people. It's often not about the challenge. It doesn't have to be super hard. It doesn't have to be what looks impossible. If you tell people why you're doing it and you tell them about the brutality of Rett syndrome, they will support you.
mm,
Telling your story is the key. It's the key thing. And not everyone's comfortable with that. Me and you have become comfortable with doing that. But I don't think we always were. I certainly wasn't.
no, definitely not.
I mean, the days where I just left a form on the desk and went out and gave a golf lesson and came back in and saw someone had donated 20 quid, that was far, far easier and far more
Mm,
up my street than having to constantly sell Rett syndrome to people
yeah.
and give details about Amber and Beth that you wouldn't want to share. Um, so yeah, people donate to people. So one thing I wanted to just mention with that is it's obviously a lot harder to raise money if you're not a parent. If you're a parent, you've got a million stories that you can tell, day-to-day things that happen because of Rett. Other people haven't got that. So even if it's your brother or your sister, they've not got that in the same way. And then if you take that further out to friends and then friends of friends, some of them won't really know what Rett syndrome is anyway. So whoever you are, if you've decided to fundraise for Reverse Rett, you've got to tell the story of the person that you're fundraising for. So um, just some anecdotes about what Rett syndrome does to them, things that happen in their lives. And to get those anecdotes, you've got to be in contact with the person, the family, and get them from the family. I often send pictures of Beth and Amber to friends of mine who aren't parents who are doing a fundraiser and just tell them a little bit more in detail about what they go through. And then mix that with the training for the challenge, what you're doing, and just keep mixing it up. Find different
Mm,
ways. I share my toenails and things like that, and things people don't want to see, bleeding nipples from marathons, stuff like that.
mm,
They get people donating weirdly. I don't know if it's just a fetish thing, but whatever it is, if money goes on the page, that's all that matters. And
yeah.
so try and be creative. I use my runs at the moment to try and think of different ways of telling the story. Um, so whoever you are, parent or not, tell the story, talk about Rett syndrome. Number 2 is be relentless with your asking. Social media is so difficult to navigate. It's got worse in the last few years, not just from my own experiences, but also from going on workshops. There's a guy who's in Manchester who does social media workshops, and I've been to 3 or 4 now. And each time you go, you learn something different. So I'm just going to read a few things that I've learned. So when you put out a post, only a tiny percent of your friends are going to see it. Tiny, somewhere around 18%. So that's not very many at all. Let me just see what I've written. So if you share it once, you're going to hit a few people. And that's not going to be any use to you. You're going to get those people that you know closely who are going to donate anyway. You're trying to reach people that maybe you were at school with 45 years ago, in my case, and get them to donate. And to do that, you've got to be bold and repeat yourself numerous times. Facebook is the best place. I know you mentioned Instagram. Instagram's good for awareness. I've had a few people contact me and get involved in fundraising through Instagram, but I don't think I've ever had very many donations directly from Instagram. It's all from Facebook. LinkedIn, I've never had a donation. I haven't done as much on there, but Facebook's the place for donations. The algorithms these days, it's mayhem on there. You don't know what you're going to see. It seems to me that most of your news feed is filled up with the people that you made friends with recently. So I make friends with someone that I don't know, maybe in America, and I'm just constantly seeing their posts. It's really difficult. You don't see the people that you used to see. So you've got to bear that in mind. The other thing that's happened with Facebook as well, and we talked about this before we started this session, is the amount of suggested pages or groups to follow, and all the inflammatory stuff with politics, even with football, sport, whatever it might be. They put that on there, and they do it purposely because their aim is to keep you on there. They don't care about whether you're on there because you want to stay in touch with your family or friends who don't live near you. They want you on there just to keep you on there, see the adverts and all the rest of it. So they put things that are going to inflame you. They're going to put things there every now and again, and it's not very often, that are going to tug at the heartstrings. But mostly, I don't know if it's just my feed, but it's just toxic stuff a lot of the time. So you've got to bear all this in mind. Unless you regularly interact with someone on Facebook, it's as if your closest and oldest Facebook friends have left the building totally and have just gone. Every now and again, I think about someone maybe from school or someone I worked with, and I just go onto their page and I realize that they're having a life and they're posting on a regular basis, and I haven't seen any of it. I haven't seen one post. So you've got to post on a regular basis. If you don't post on a regular basis, then you're not gonna get any engagement. And then number 3, remember why you're doing what you're doing. You're doing it for one person. And when you get to the point where you feel like you don't want to ask or you can't ask or anything else, look at them, think about what they're going through, think about why you started doing it in the first place, and just push on through, get over yourself, because it's not that important. I mean, if you look at people like with a profile, Kevin Sinfield's a good example with his MND ultra marathons that he does every year. He does 7 ultra marathons in 7 days and raises way into the millions every time. Nobody's going, I wish Kevin Sinfield had stopped doing ultra marathons. He's getting on my nerves. No one's ever said that ever. I mean, I've never seen a negative comment about the guy. So why be afraid of putting it back out there? People can choose to donate, or they can choose to ignore. They can unfollow you, they can unfriend you. What is stopping people? And just finally, to give an example of that, I had a parent who did his first challenge in that 2024 ultra with us, who raised over 20 grand. His daughter hadn't been long diagnosed, maybe 6 months or something like that. A year later, he did the Isle of Wight 100K. I think I saw one post from on Facebook about his challenge. He just didn't. It was clear that he didn't feel comfortable sharing his page in the same way that he'd done 12 months earlier. And he still raised £3,000, which is an amazing amount. But if he'd kept posting like he'd done the year before, how much would he have raised? And I've not spoken to him about it, but I would imagine that he's feeling a little bit despondent and a bit downhearted and a bit nervous about, sharing another page again because of that. So you've just got to try and break out of that, I don't want to ask. The one thing that I really don't like, and loads of people do it, they start the post with, "I'm sorry to ask," or "I'm sorry to ask again. I apologize." Why are you apologizing? Go and have a look at your daughter.
Yeah, for me, this was one of the big learning points in 2025, my second event, there is so much, as you said, toxic stuff on Facebook and social media that, people just scroll on by if they don't want to see it. And I've never had a single negative comment about my posts. And actually, I've had a lot of positive comments. People, I think, appreciate, seeing the photos and having the updates and hearing about what I'm doing. So I completely agree.
That is right. And I've had people say that because I got on Facebook when Beth was 7 and she's 25 now. Although a lot of my friends have never met her in person, they've seen her grow up.
Yeah.
They've seen the problems she's had through the surgeries that she's had and everything else. And people from 20 years ago are still sponsoring me, the same people.
Yeah,
I've got people from the golf club. I've not worked there for 13 years. They still hold a charity day. One guy who used to have lessons, he's carried on doing it every year. So there are so many good people out there, and you've got to focus on the good people. And if you've got people there's one particular person on this call now, and I won't name him, but he gets like I used to get, which is really annoyed if somebody who you felt you were fairly close to didn't support you as you thought that they should. I have a strategy with that. I just come out with it straight to them, and make them think. And I always think, if they choose to take offense and don't want to talk to me again, what am I actually losing? I don't think I'm really losing anything. I'm talking about family members, no names.
Andy,
what I'm talking about isn't interested enough to watch this, so I'm fine.
Right. Look, we're out of time. That has been fascinating for me. I mean, I hope people watching this, appreciate you giving your thoughts. There are a lot of personal thoughts there, and it's been really, interesting to hear about your perspective.
Has anybody else that's on got any questions? I've got a few questions, but I think we've covered them between us, Ben. So we can leave them. If anyone's got any questions, if you don't feel comfortable now, you can just write to me anytime and ask them. If you need help with anything, I know you've had a lot of information today, and you probably have got some thoughts whizzing around your head, but if you need to clear your head, then get in touch and I'll help with what I can.
One thing today has done for me is actually made me think I might have another challenge in me. Now, those who do know me know that I went to Iceland a few years ago. Iceland is a country, not a supermarket. And if I could have bribed somebody to pick me up and drive me away from that challenge, I would have done. And I didn't complete the challenge just because I just physically wasn't able to. But I am thinking I might try the London landmarks this year. I reckon I can manage 10K. I have got bursitis at the moment, which is an inflammation of the hip, which does make walking extremely painful. But I think I could probably manage 10K if any of the ladies are interested, and the men, no gender required. Fancy a little trot round London.
When we do Leap Day, Catherine, you can speak to Julie about your injury, and hopefully she'll be able to do something and help you with it.
I'm hopefully getting a hydrocortisone injection shortly. So thank you all for coming today, and thank you all so much for your time. We've had so many positive comments in the chat, just saying that people have really, really enjoyed. I've frozen, haven't I?
No, you're still there.
There we go. I think I might have frozen for a second or two there. Lots of people saying what a lovely chat it's been. So thank you so much. You will get a recording. The last thing I'm going to say is to remind everybody that Leap Weekend, which is an opportunity for you to come together with your loved ones with Rett syndrome and your loved ones if you want to bring them as well, and come and have a weekend where we're going to talk all things Rett. And we do have a lovely little dinner and dance on the Saturday night, which everybody is welcome to, regardless of needs or abilities. So we do get up and have a little dance, a little disco at the end of the evening. So come along if you're interested. That's all we've got time for today. So thank you, Ben, so much. I really enjoyed your presentation.
Ben.
Thank you. And thank you, Andy.
When I was thinking of someone to do it with me, you were like up there, right at the top of the list.
No, it's been brilliant. Yeah, I learned a lot as well from you, Andy, especially. So, yeah, great session.
I'd just like to finally just say a shout out to Hannah, who's joined us from Mexico, who is coming over with her husband to run the Manchester Marathon. So,
thank you, Andy.
No problem. Thanks for coming.
Excited.
Thank you
so much.
All right. See ya.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.